Today, we will begin a video series on using the 5E model in our Earth Science classroom. However, the 5E model can really be used in any science classroom or any content area for that matter, with the help of a little imagination and creativity, that is. In this lesson, we will discuss what I call the steps within this model. We will break down the 5Es and explain each one a little bit more. I'm going to provide options for using each E. And then every teacher's style is unique. And so we know that the one model fit all approach is unrealistic. So that way you can fit it for your teaching style specifically. We will provide information on what the students and teachers' job is in each step of the model. And then we will look at specific content for each of the 5 steps and how it was implemented in a real classroom setting to include student samples and student feedback. Now, as I go through this lesson, if I discuss something that you don't quite know how to do or you do not understand, please send me a message through the Georgia DOE community, and I will do my best to help you. That includes anything that doesn't even have to do with the 5Es. All right, so as you can see on this slide, there are 5 what I call steps in this model. Step 1, engage or engagement. Step 2, explore or exploration. Step 3, explain or explanation. Step 4, elaborate or elaboration. Step 5, evaluate or evaluation. All right, now as you can see on this slide, there's different, you can use terminology and it's all about tense. So on mine, I tend to say explained because that's what I do on my step 3. But again, however you want to use it is completely up to you. Now, I'm going to go into each step a little bit further. What we're probably going to do is do a series of videos based on time so that you can have not just how to use each step, but also have resources to go with them. All right, so now breaking down the 5Es. So starting with step 1, engage. As you can see in this first step, students mentally engage using a question, a phenomenon, or an activity. The point of this step is to gain the student's interest and provide them with an opportunity to make connections between what they already know and what you want them to learn. Personal experience or prior knowledge is what you want to access at this point. Sometimes students don't have a lot of personal experience. For example, if you're talking about the oceans and you're in a mountain school, so the students may have never seen an ocean, that can be challenging. So if you provide them with a phenomenon that allows them to see or engage with an ocean view or whatever the case may be, a video, then that can pique their interest. The second E, step 2, in this, the students will learn new concepts through hands-on activities. They have the opportunity to describe in their own words their understanding of the problem or the phenomenon that they're actually facing. This allows students to acquire a common set of experiences to help each other make sense of the new concept or the skill. Now, for me, I love collaboration in the Explorer because I believe more than one brain solves problems a lot faster. Now, step 3 in the 5E model is explain. In this third step, the teacher provides terms like vocabulary terms and concepts to the students to develop explanations for what they have experienced. It is important that the experience comes from the explanation phase. So you can use vocabulary terms, content videos, key information, notes, graphic organizers. We call them thinking maps in our district, or any information to support the student's understanding of the skill or the concept that they need to master by the end of that, by the end of the 5Es or by the end of the unit or the module, whatever you call your learning area. Step 4, elaborate. In this step, students apply what they have learned to a new situation in an effort to develop a deeper understanding of the concept. It is also a great place to incorporate informational reading articles to strengthen literacy through reading and/or claim evidence and reasoning in their writing. Just remember, it's important during this phase for students to have the opportunity to discuss and compare their ideas with other students. And then step 5 of the 5E model. So students will have the opportunity to review and reflect on their understanding of their own learning and the skills that they have obtained. This is also when students provide proof through evidence for changes to their understanding, beliefs, and skills. It is also an opportunity for teacher and student to determine how much learning and understanding have actually taken place. So this is a great place for assessments, formatives, summatives, however you choose to assess your students. Now, what I'm going to do is I have created resources so that you can use the items that I'm providing as I teach this lesson on the 5Es. I'm providing resources, so they will be available in the Georgia DOE community. All you have to do is click on it. It'll be a PDF, and you can save the PDF and you can use it in your classroom. So that will be available as well. It will also be linked to a Google Drive, which you can also access. All right, so we're going to focus now solely on step 1, engage. So this slide just shows you some quick ways that you can engage students. As you can see, these are examples of how, like I said, of how to engage students in your classroom. Engagement within your classroom is all about the hook. Much like when writing the introduction to the introduction paragraph of a narrative, you must engage your audience so that they will continue reading your story. If the hook is not good, you're not going to keep reading the book, because we know we've all picked up a book and after several pages, we truly felt our money was wasted, even though the book was on the bestsellers list. So perhaps it just didn't hook you. This is where knowing your student comes in. Personal relationships with your students will help you find pieces which will capture their attention so much they will begin driving you crazy with questions, because ultimately, isn't that what we all want as teachers? Students wondering and questioning and asking why and seeking answers. I mean, I know I do. When I plan my engagement activities, I attempt to incorporate pieces which have a little bit of me, because students always want to peek behind the mirror and see what makes me, their teacher, tick. I include things I know about them, and we all know they love to talk about themselves. And I connect it all to the content, but ultimately what I call the learning target question. But we will get to that in just a minute. So as you can see, there's a list of suggestions that you can use, and this is just a few. You can set it up to use any way you want to use in your classroom, but these are just a few things that you can do to engage your students. All right, so this is an overview of the role of each player, student and the teacher. As you can see, the student behaviors allow students to ask questions such as, why did this happen? What do I already know about this? KWL comes in really nice if you use those in your classroom. You just wouldn't use every step for engage, obviously. You want them to show interest and curiosity. The basic thing is to hook them, and you want them to be engaged in whatever the learning target is that you are about to start teaching or you are going to teach. And then for the teacher, your job is basically to facilitate this. You are to ask them open-ended questions that you're not necessarily going to answer. You are to give them a purpose-driven phenomenon. That is very important. Purpose-driven phenomenon. And you want to tap into their current knowledge or their previous life experiences, or maybe work that they've done previously, to tie it all back together. Because we know all the science concepts and earth science are pretty much connected. So if you can tap into something they've done previously in your class to connect a new learning target, that's even better. And then invite students to express what they think. Open discussions and engage are very, very, very important. And then you want the students to be comfortable, this is where knowing your student becomes very, very important. You want them to be comfortable to ask questions and propose questions, even the craziest questions. All right, so now I'm going to show you some actual content using step one, engage. So now during the actual content phase of step one, engage, I'm going to give you several strategies that I have used in my personal classroom. You can use them all, or you can just skip them and not use any of them. But please do know that whatever works best for your classroom and for your diverse group of students is what you should do, because you know your students best. And at the end of the day, it is about student learning and student engagement. So take what you know about your students and build your curriculum around that, because the more you use what you know about their personal experiences and about their life experiences, then the more engaged they're going to be and the better chance you're going to have of success. All right, so part one, I always start my unit, whatever I'm going to teach, it doesn't matter what I teach, with a learning target question. This specific engagement, which is basically I propose a question, and then the students are going to answer the question in their in their journal, their Earth Science journal. So this part can take anywhere from 30 minutes to an entire class period, depending on if I have DEL students, which require more one-on-one assistance, or if I have gifted students. It just depends. And this is similar to a probing question. So I always start my students with a learning target question before we do anything else, before I teach a word, before I give them a study guide, before I give them a vocabulary term, before I even tell them what the learning targets are. I basically start with this. So I use this because I believe this gives a sense of purpose to the learning activities to come, and it ensures that I am anchoring the science concept, and it becomes the focus of my instruction. When I would just read the learning targets to students, as I was specifically required to do, their faces just went blank. Now they have a sense of purpose, in my opinion, and the creative students just take off. But I tell them, don't worry. They are told from the beginning that the learning target question, I don't expect them to know the answer. So I preface the question or the assignment with this: I haven't taught this yet. I do not expect you to know the answer to this question. But what I do expect is for you to think about it. I want you to think about everything you learned in elementary school. I want you to think about everything you have heard on the news when you're sitting there bored out of your mind while your parents are watching it. I want you to think about everything that you've seen in YouTube videos that you probably shouldn't be watching in the first place. And I want you to do your best answering this question. I just want you to brainstorm and write down what you think you know that could answer this question. And you'd be surprised at some of the answers that I get. Also notice that I've taken multiple learning targets and combined them into one big learning target question. So as you can see, I've taken S6, E6A, B, and C. So I'm using all three learning targets and combined them into one massive learning target question. Obviously, they're not going to know the answer because, number one, we're in the engage phase, which is step one, and I haven't taught a word about any of this. So this helps me get through the content because we have a lot of learning targets in Earth Science, and the year is only so long. But it also helps me make connections within the content. It helps the students make connections. It helps them connect the dots to everything else we're learning in Earth Science. And then it also enhances the rigor. So it makes it a little bit more rigorous instead of just a level one, DOK level one question. You know, what are renewable and non-renewable energy resources? I mean, anybody can do that. So, and plus that would take me forever. So this way I can teach many lessons within each of my modules as I go, but in the end, the students will be able to answer this one question because everything was covered and it was covered well throughout. So as you can see, the learning target question here is, pretend you work for the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, as the lead scientist who directly advises the President of the United States. You have discovered a rise in global temperatures due to an increase in Earth's greenhouse gases. So that part covers S6, E6C. What type of sustainable energy resources would you suggest humans use in their everyday life to protect the supply and the quality of Earth's natural resources like water, soil, and air? Or would you suggest non-renewable energy resources? And provide evidence to support your response, along with evidence to support your claim of global warming. So notice how that one learning target question encompasses A, B, and C, the elements A, B, and C from S6, E6. So that's the goal. And you can see my instructions are very, very clear. Because journals are only so large, the students write it on a sheet of paper, and then we cut it and we fold it and make it a foldable to put it into the journal. And I'm going to show you what that looks like on the next page. So this is an example of a student's journal. And let me read what the student actually wrote for you. So I read the learning target question, and the student's answer was, I believe tidal energy or wave energy would be two types of energy we should explore. Since we always have a high and low tide, plus live on the coast, it would be a great resource of energy to power homes and businesses. They actually said and, not and. Waves are created by wind, so most times there are waves. It would be something to look into. However, I will need to do more research for data on global warming, although I do know carbon dioxide has something to do with it, and cow poots, P-O-O-T-S, poots. So that is the sample that I have uploaded here of a student journal. Notice how the learning targets are written on a sheet of paper, and it's folded in half, so that the learning target question and the actual learning targets become a foldable to make more room in the journal for writing. On the left side of the page, we will glue foldables, and we will do other things to support the learning target question. So they're basically creating a book here. And then on the right side is where they'll do their writing. So they're going to write in this journal at least twice on the right side, and then they're going to do, like I said, glue foldables on the left side. So this is part one, step one for part one, engage. This student did a pretty good job, considering I haven't taught a word yet, or given a study guide or for vocabulary or the module. And as you can see, they have some previous knowledge, but are still a little bit unclear on some things. However, this entry gives me an idea of what type of previous knowledge the student has acquired and what type of differentiation I need to do, considering along differentiation I need to consider along the way to help the student and the other 75 students actually achieve mastery. So journal entries, in my opinion, are an excellent form of diagnostic assessment, which only takes a few minutes to read, and students don't mind writing, especially if they know that they can't get it wrong because it hasn't been taught yet, so therefore it won't be for a grade. Or maybe the only grade that they're going to get for it is a grade that's good, right? Because they gave their best effort. Plus, don't forget, the more students write, the better they will write. So we as science teachers may not be qualified, although some of us definitely are, or some of you definitely are, to grade conventions and punctuations and etc. But no one's asking you to do that. All I'm asking you to do is give the student an opportunity to write in science. Give them an opportunity to put their words on paper, not write on an iPad, not write on a Google device, which I don't know what they're called, but to formally, not just formally write, but informally write, so that they can express their ideas on paper. Because we've become a technology age, and we've kind of gotten away from that a little bit. All right, so part two. So this is a different method. I tend to do more than one because I like to engage my students in more than one way, because, students all learn in different ways. So some students, learn visually, some students need to watch videos, some students need to write. So my second teaching strategy for the engage phase, part two here of my engagement lesson, students were to watch a short clip, and I used my iPad to screen record from NASA's Climate Time Machine. I personally prefer to embed resources into my module as often as possible, so that if a student's absent or virtual, then they will have a similar learning environment as those who are physically present in the classroom. So if a student's quarantined or they're sick, then they'll still have an opportunity. and they won't be so far behind when they actually return to the building. So if you are not using a learning platform like Canvas or Google Classroom, you can always link websites on the document and then save the document as a PDF. And then you can email it to the student or however you get with the student digitally. If you would like help with linking things to a PDF, just let me know and I'll be happy to help you through the platform. It also prevents students from accessing or typing websites incorrectly. However, most times I just project the short clip and then propose the questions that you will see here for discussion. Now, this part can take about 20 or 30 minutes, depending on what day of the week it is and depending on the students' moods. I found Mondays take longer because, they're not quite awake or motivated yet, but it just depends. And also, if they are really engaged, it could take even longer than that because they are engaged. So when you touch the clip, hopefully this will play. When you touch the clip, you're going to see that it is, and it's a short clip. It's 47 seconds. So you can see the global temperatures rising, but obviously I'm not speaking during this. I'm just letting it play. And I may play it more than once. I might discuss the temperature differences, how the blues are cooler, whereas the red, the more red it is, the warmer it's going to be. So if you want to give a little information before you play the clip, you could do that, whatever works for you. And then I'm going to ask the students to consider the following questions. In your opinion, why do you think global atmospheric temperatures have risen so much in the last 40 years? And then I'm going to give them an opportunity to discuss it and talk about it. And then I'm going to ask the question, what will happen to Earth if global temperatures continue to rise? What do you think is going to happen? So, and then I'm going to give them an opportunity to answer and an opportunity to brainstorm and an opportunity to think about it. And then what do you think humans can do to help reduce temperatures and slow the Earth from warming globally? So then I haven't said anything about global warming at this point. The words global warming together have not come up. I've used warming globally. I've said global temperatures, global atmospheric temperatures. So at some point, the student is going to say, does this mean global warming? My dad said that's not real. Or my mom said that, we're all going to burn up. The sun's going to burn us up. So this gives you an opportunity to listen to those things and talk about those things. But remember, this is just hooking the students. You're still hooking the students. You're not necessarily giving them any concrete information yet. All right, so part 3, this is another way to engage. If you noticed, I used a picture of my personal driver's license with a lot of the information redacted, as you can see, the black. And with this method, I am using my personal information to engage the student in the content, and then I'm asking them questions to bring them into the content. So when they look at my picture, they will notice my driver's license has an expiration date. So when the expiration date gets close, I need to renew this license if I plan to keep driving. And then we talk about what, the kids are like, yeah, because if you don't renew your driver's license, you're definitely going to go to jail. So it sparks conversation. So then I ask them, what does the word renew or renewable mean? So then we discuss that. And then we discuss what it actually means. And then we talk about, well, what happens if this were my last license and they told me I can never get another license? What does that mean? If it were not renewable or if it were known as non-renewable. So then it facilitates a discussion for things that the students consider non-renewable in their lives. And so I just took number 4 and I just moved it to a new page. And so some of the students' responses were car warranty. My mom was so mad that she had to pay for the part on her car because her warranty expired and couldn't get extended or renewed. So the car warranty on mom's car. Medication. My dad takes this medicine for his back pain, but the doctor told him that they don't make it anymore, so he can't get it again. Lipstick. My grandma wears this certain color of lipstick, but she said they don't sell it anymore. She even went to Amazon to buy it, but couldn't. Food. The milk went bad, and I sure couldn't drink that stuff. I would have puked. So you get some pretty funny responses. But again, you are engaging the students. You are just trying to hook them into what you want them to learn about. So this is where you can now talk about, so now you are getting an idea of what they understand about renewable and non-renewable. All right. So here's another opportunity. On this one, in this strategy, the students are going to sort items, renewable and non-renewable energy items, which is basically attached to the learning target. So this can be printed and laminated to become a hands-on activity, or if you are a digital sort of teacher, it can be projected, or it can be uploaded to your LMS, your learning platform, whatever works for you. Notice some of the images are really the same, like oil and petroleum. They're pretty much the same thing. Crude oil, same basic stuff. It's just different terms for it. But see, the kids don't know that yet. Also, hydropower and hydroelectric, same stuff. But see, the kids don't know that yet. So with this strategy, it allows them to put these resources into two columns: renewable and non-renewable. That's it. They don't even know that it's necessarily energy yet. You can tell them that if you want, but if you were just to upload this slide, they wouldn't know that because it doesn't list it anywhere. And then this is what the result is how the students sorted it. You can see they've got renewable on one side and non-renewable on the other, and it gives you an opportunity for the class to discuss it. And then part 5, now we are going to review the learning target question and ask them to reflect on what they've learned so far. If their opinions are the same, or if they've changed their opinions based on the new information that they've acquired through this step 1, engage. Another option of the different parts is you can make 2 to 4 of them student choice. Just throwing that out there instead of, doing all 4. Do whatever works best for you, ultimately. My students are pretty low this year, and so I try to address all of the various different learning styles. So I tend to do more than I probably need to, but I want to make sure that every student is getting an equal opportunity. So that is step 1 of the 5-step process of the 5E method. Again, if you have any questions, please reach out to me on the Georgia Community Platform, and I will be happy to answer any questions. If you have feedback about things that you would like to learn, please reach out to me on the community platform as well, and I will do everything I can to help you have a great year and be successful. If you would like to, if you'd like me to share out some resources, I have a lot, and I will be at the Georgia Science Conference in February, so look for me there.